Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're joining us on this Monday morning. We've got somebody coming back to see us this morning, and you're going to love the rest of his report. I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I normally sort of keep you in suspense, but Bobby Smith is back. So we're going to, guess what we're going to talk about? How you're going to catch those big bass. He's going to show you some of the stuff he uses and all. But let's take care of our weather. Brought to us by Hayden Technical Center. High today, 67, low 55. Water temperature right around 63.5 degrees. Looking at our Monday moon forecast. We're right now today on March the 2nd. Can y'all believe it's March? We're on that starting the first quarter, and the full moon will be March the 9th, about 6 or 7 days from now. With full moon's coming up, and our tide chart, we're looking at low tide this morning at 6:43, and a high tide late this afternoon at 9:15. Marine forecast looks like a sort of west-southwest. So it's quick weather because we want to get back and spend a lot of time with Bobby. So we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to Bobby Smith. All right.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you for being back. And we are decided we're going to do a separate show later on just on Deer Point Lake, because you had a situation the other day where a big bass, and that's an amazing story. You got a picture of it.
I've never seen anything like it in the 45 years I've been tournament fishing.
Big bass. What size bass was 7 pound? Or
7 pound bass trying to swallow a 5 pound bass.
And he actually saw it happening, and he got pictures of it. We're going to talk about that when we do a story on Deer Point Lake, because that's a fascinating story. But here we are. Bobby recently caught his 50,000th bass, and that's incredible. The only bad thing about that, we didn't get the video, but we may just ride out with him, catch bass number 50,294, whatever. we'll just get a story of it and all. But let's get started. We covered, I still have my notes and all. We got the last segment, we're going to do all these fishing tips and show you the things he's won. But, talk about all you pioneer and catching and releasing, and 95% of them, but your consistency. I wrote down your consistency year after year after year is what propelled you to do this. And that was your biggest enjoyment.
That's the biggest thing I strive for, just to be consistent. I want to bring in a limit every time.
That's the drive.
There was one of those things you've got there.
Yes, read that.
I believe I really didn't start keeping a separate tournament account. I just kept my regular ledger, but in 2001 I started keeping just a tournament ledger.
Okay.
And in this last 19 years, I have actually fished in 803 bass tournaments. I won 149 of them and placed in the money 486 times, which is 61%. So that goes along with the consistency. But I could have possibly weighed in 4,184 bass during those 803 tournaments. And I actually weighed in 3,934 bass.
Wow.
Which that's 94% of the time I weighed in a limit of fish.
94%.
And that's what I strive for. There's something about getting that 5th fish in the live well that takes the pressure off of you. Then all you can do is get better.
Yeah.
Every time you catch a bigger one, you release a smaller one.
Yeah.
And you fish better with 5 fish in the well than you do with no fish.
It's easier, less pressure. That's some great stats.
Anyway, that was a.
And how do you weigh your fish? You don't use a scale. You tell us about that the other day.
Well, it doesn't matter what they weigh. You have to bring in your biggest 5. Mm-hmm. And I use a balance beam. No batteries involved. Just hang one of them on each end, whichever one rocks the beam. He's the heaviest. He goes in the well. The other one goes back in the creek.
Oh man!
I kid some people sometimes. A lot of people use these little battery-powered digital scales, and they have to weigh both of them. But those scales, they fluctuate so it's hard to split atoms.
That's a simple process.
All I want to know is which one's the biggest, and then we'll weigh them when we get back to the weigh-in. But I kid them sometimes, but I caught so many just keeper fish today that I killed the battery on my balance beam.
That's good. And we talked about last time, show you fish early as a kid. We fished with Granddad over around the Choctaw River and places like that, and helped you get you started. Then you started bass fishing at age 22. But meanwhile, in between, you were a commercial, people don't know this, you were a commercial flounder man. Tell us that.
Yeah, you know, I was married and had a kid when I was 18 years old, and had to go to work, and I struggled to be able to bass fish for a long time there. And to pay the bills, I either had to take a second job or do something to bring in some extra money. I just didn't make enough money to pay the bills. So I had always loved flounder, and I learned how to flounder when I was 12 or 13 years old, wading around the back end of Pretty Bayou with a Coleman lantern.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten pretty good at it when I got old enough to get a boat and could go all over the bay, and I figured out how to use an underwater light, and I gigged way more flounder than we could use. So I kept neighbors, friends, relatives supplied with free flounder all the time because I just couldn't use them all. And when I went up married and a kid on the way and needing the extra money, I thought, well, you know, for back then you could get a commercial license for $10. And I said, well, why not start selling these fish instead of just giving them all away?
Yeah.
And so I got me a license, and for probably 15 or 20 years, you'd see me 2 or 3 nights a week out on that bay, pulling that boat around, gigging flounder and selling them.
And you supply to restaurants around here.
I sold them to restaurants and fish markets and stuff. You could get more from the restaurants, of course. You had to clean them.
Oh, yeah. Who were the restaurants you sold them to back in those days? A bunch of them.
Blue Dolphin, Cletus Hartzog at the Blue Dolphin. Before that, he was at Noah's Seafood out on 98. I sold some to Bill Sapp at the Singing Oyster, Donald Penny up at Southport.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this out now because you saw that this is a flounder mount, okay? And you said in your lifetime you saw one about this size.
I saw one about that size after one of the hurricanes. Had brought the tides way in and everything, and we were out there floundering one night.
He's moving around. Let me put him down.
That's back when we were still using the Coleman lantern.
Yeah.
And one guy held the lantern and the gig in one hand in the front of the boat, and the other one sculled the boat from the back.
And y'all were in where?
We were in Pretty Bayou.
Pretty
right
Bayou.
There where I grew up.
Flounder that big.
There were a lot of debris from the hurricane in the water, floating around, you know, beach balls and different other, this, that, and the other. And we had already picked up 2 of these little plywood skim boards that the kids throw and jump on and glide down the edge. And one of them was painted bright red, one of them was just natural plywood color. And that modelly plywood color looks similar to the way a flounder looks on the bottom. And I look up ahead of the boat up there, and the very edge of the lantern line, I said, well, we got us another skim board. And I said, but this one's waterlogged. And as he sculled on up there to it, the more I got closer, it started to take shape, and I said, I ain't believing it, that's a flounder. And he stood up and looked, and he says, oh my gosh, it is, get him. And I said, I reared up with all of my 130 pounds I had then instead of 220. I came down on him with a little 3-prong gig and a long bamboo, lightweight 10-foot bamboo pole. I hit him as hard as I could hit him, right behind the eyes like I always do. He just got up and calmly headed out to deep water. And I mean, I was probably 15 years old then, and I didn't think, if I had thought, just let go of the pole. There's no water in Pretty Bayou that'll sink a 10-foot gig pole. Yeah. He would eventually stopped, and we could have sculled it down, got it, and got the fish, but I held on to it, and when he stretched it out, just before he pulled me out of the boat, the gig popped out. But that's still the biggest flounder I've ever seen.
So
he would have weighed somewhere over 10 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
10, 12 pounds plus.
So you actually were almost gigging and releasing it without knowing it.
Yeah, without knowing it.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back, folks. All right, welcome back, folks. You know, we take pride here in Panhandle Outdoors about talking about having real people on the show. And if Bobby Smith's not a real person, I don't know what is. And his accomplishments have been legendary. Let's finish up on these flounder real quick. What were you telling about a couple of nights you went and caught gigs? How many?
Well, 3 times I went over 100 pounds out there.
For flounder now, that's incredible.
In our bay. I hate to have to make a living at it today.
Yeah, you said you went up not too a couple years ago and couldn't.
I haven't been, I think, in 3 years now. The last time I went twice within about a week apart, and it took me two trips to gig a 10 fish limit.
Yep.
And I was actually mad when they put the 10 fish limit on it because I had to gig 10 and come home. That's not a problem anymore. Now the problem's finding 10.
Okay, let's get back. I understand. Let's get back to bass fishing. Okay, we got some more pictures, and these are going to be like tournament.
These are just tournament weigh-ins.
The tournament weigh-ins. This is what it looks like here. So tell this first one right here. Tell us about that one.
That's a Deer Point Lake.
Okay.
I had a real good year last year on Deer Point. Caught a lot of fish up there.
Hey, you fish mainly by yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I like to on Deer Point. I fish solo. A lot of times I use my little boat. You can see in the background back there. A little 14-foot boat with a 9.9. It'll go places those big boats won't go.
You just hit a key right there. Talking about a small boat and getting up in little places where these big boats won't get. That's true.
You know. That's
And
more of the Deer
another
Point
weigh-in.
fish.
We're going to just show you a series of tournament weigh-in pictures. And put them in the basket there. It was cold that day.
Yeah, I had a hoodie on that day. It stayed pretty cool all day.
All right.
There's a summertime tournament. That's down at Abercrombie's on the Apalachicola River at Apalachicola.
We showed that on the show with Bill Allen and I. We put in there. That's a good landing right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of it, you can go upriver, downriver.
Up, down, or back to Lake Wimico. You can fish the flats. You can go upriver, back to Wimico. Most people don't like to go there because it's a little further than going to White City. But the fish are so much better off being released in that pure fresh water than they are in that old briny canal at White City.
Yes.
I wish they'd hold all the tournaments there.
That's a good point right there at Abercrombie. All right.
Now that's actually out on the water. That's the 5 that I had saved up. That was not a tournament. I had my granddaughter with me.
Okay.
And we just decided to go at the end of the day and put those in one of my favorite fishing holes. So that's a little creek that I'm not going to name. That
Okay.
I'll stock those in. Those are Lake Seminole fish.
Lake Seminole.
Those old springtime. I used to love to go to Lake Seminole. Those are springtime fish.
Goodness
up there.
gracious.
Oh, I used to fish the old ABA circuit quite a bit. And nothing like Seminole when it's right.
When it's right.
Seminole and Talcon when it's right, but as far as year-round, I prefer the river because you can always put some kind of pattern together on the river.
In your left hand there, that's a 2.9. What size are those?
Those are probably 5-pounders, those bigger ones.
They look healthy.
All of those stringers were 20 pounds plus. Now that's one of my good friends, best friends there, Kevin Toller. Bill Toller's son used to be a county commissioner.
Yes.
Bay County. He and I fished together back in the 70s and 80s, and now Kevin is my backdoor neighbor, lives straight across the canal from me.
Oh, great.
And that is one of the last 2 March we went over there, and we've won it twice in a row, that Capital City Bass Hunters Open Tournament on Lake Talcon.
Yes.
And this year we're not going to get to try a 3-peat because I've got 2 more tournaments somewhere else. I can't be there, so Kevin's going to fish with another partner. But
well, good luck,
won that
Kevin.
2 years in a row.
Kevin be watching this. Good luck. He's a good guy there. All right.
That's some Apalachicola River fish out of a place that the big bass boats wouldn't go. If
that's your little boat in the back?
Notice the little boat in the background?
Okay.
It paid off that day.
Okay.
That's 19 pounds of river bass.
That's something else. So you talk about, different times of the year to fish and all, but all these tournaments, again, that consistency we talk about. How does the moon, we talked about this earlier when we got a Monday moon forecast, we talked about it during the break. We can't change the moon forecast. So how do you like to fish the moon if that's the only factor?
Well, the moon, we don't have any choice on the moon. If we fish every weekend, we're going to have a different moon every time, but the moon affects the feeding times.
Right.
And the feeding times, I'm becoming more and more and more convinced about them. I was skeptical for many years. I thought the tide had a lot more to do with it, the time of day and things like that, but the more I pay attention to it, I'm catching the bulk of my fish during those feeding times.
The blue water outriggers feeding times, that's what we talk about over and over again, saltwater and freshwater and the hunters. So I believe in it too. I was like you at first. I said, that's just so gimmick to let us look at something else. But and you were talking about you and your little granddaughter went and the tide was wrong, and tell us that story.
Well, the lower end of the river is typically, everybody says, oh, the fishing's always better on the outgoing tide. And basically that's what I thought for years, and it is. That's what I would prefer because of that confidence factor. But the day we went, we had outgoing tide all morning. It was slow. We caught fish here and there, just one here and one there all morning long. And when it got over about lunchtime, tide started coming in, and I said, well, baby, it's about over with. It's going to be slow the rest of the day. But those feeding times I had looked at, and it was 2 to 4 o'clock, somewhere in that vicinity that day. And I was in a place that I wouldn't even go to normally on a incoming tide, but I wanted her to catch a redfish.
Okay.
And that was a place where you can usually catch a redfish or a big sheephead. And I wanted her to get to fight one of those before we came in. And we'd had a good day already on the bass, but we pulled in on this bank to catch a redfish, and we caught 12 bass just like that, and the tide just pouring in.
Wow.
And we hung the redfish and the sheephead and lost both of them. Had about a 5 pound of each.
Well, I know she had a great time.
But she had a great time. We wound up catching 62 bass that day.
62 bass.
But we left them absolutely eating the paint off of a crankbait with the tide just pouring in.
Wow.
And that shouldn't be, but that's the time of day that the feeding.
Speaking of baits and all, we're going to take a break and we'll come back and show you some of Bobby's favorite baits. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Sitting with Bass Pro, but he done showing the big circuit. You do all this on locally, right?
Right.
This is the Panhandle Pro right here. Fishing game times from blue water 111 to 311 and 132 to 332. We talked about the fishing time now. Let's get to the tackle, what we've been waiting for. Now next month, Bobby's coming back. We're going to do the story of Deer Point Lake and how to fish Deer Point Lake, and that's just another whole show in itself. The things that happen at Deer Point, and you live up there on it, so you're expert. All right, let's start. We're going to talk tackle on this segment here. So tell us about this first one, okay?
That is one of the originals from back about 1975. That's the old Rebel Super R that came out. And when it came out, to me, it didn't look like much. But we soon found that that was one of the best fish catching crankbaits for the wintertime that I had ever seen. In the first 3 months I owned one of them, I caught over 500 bass on it.
No kidding.
It was unbelievable.
And was that color? Okay.
This is the other one. That was the two primary colors that first came out. Everybody used those two basically depending on the color of the water. And then years later down the road, we found out that's called a Super R, and I call it a souped up Super R.
Souped up.
See the little blade hanging under the bill?
Right, okay, right here. Yeah.
As that thing dives and wobbles, that little blade spins underneath that, and it sort of appears like he's chasing it.
Well, did you add the blade or blade?
Oh yeah, I had the blade.
This is customized.
That's customized.
Bobby Smith customized.
And I learned this from keeping a bass in an aquarium for about a year. A bass cannot stand anything else to eat in front of him. I had to fill the bass up before I could feed the brim and the catfish and stuff that I had in there with him, or he would just maul them, run them from one end of the aquarium to the other. So I learned to feed him first before I fed him. Once he got stuffed, his eyes bulging, he'd kind of back off and let the rest of them come in and eat something.
No kidding.
But I had to feed him his live bait. He didn't want anything dead. I had to feed him worms and minnows and crawfish, whatever I could find.
I can understand that. Well, I'm really hungry. Somebody else is eating. I want to eat too. So
well, I think the bass see that, and it looks like he's chasing that little blade. And just to me, my confidence level, I feel like I'm going to get 3 times as many bites with the blade versus without it.
That's awesome. That is
awesome. And then those were the standard natural colors, and I've had some people over the years that can do a real good job with airbrush painting.
Customized here. All right. Whoa, that's beautiful.
And add some new, more modern colors to it. And I won't reveal my sources. They don't want to be swamped with orders, but
wow.
Anyway.
That is nice. And then we have
you can add glitter and stuff to them, or you can add detail. Like that one has even got the crawfish pinchers underneath the bottom of the belly down there. It's got crawfish pinchers on it.
Okay.
And the little hairs on them, it's that detailed. Plus it's got my name down the middle of it.
That's cool.
So that's a personally customized crawfish, a river crawfish for me.
That's cool.
Anyway, that's predominantly a wintertime bait. That's
these are wintertime crankbaits.
Right.
Okay.
We're getting into spring now, and even though I catch fish all winter long on these, and these are probably my 2 favorites.
Let me see.
These are the 2 that I used in that tournament.
Okay.
Last time, but this is the old.
Okay.
Like that.
There you go.
This is the old snagless Sally. It's been around forever. It's To me, it imitates a crab.
Okay.
And those brackish water fish eat a lot of crabs because I dig them out of my live well after every tournament where they spit them up. But the key to this one is not just the bait itself, but this tail.
Okay.
The double tail.
Double tail.
It swims. This blade,
Goes around.
when a crab swims, he uses that flipper.
Yeah.
And he pulls himself either right or left. He doesn't go ahead or backwards, he goes right or left. And he pulls himself with that flipper fin, and then the rest of his legs just trail behind him. And this single Colorado blade, I like a 4.5 gold, as it's spinning around, you can picture that thump, 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 same kind of vibration that crab would be putting out.
Okay.
And then this skirt and those two little tails, it's like his legs coming behind him. And I have caught anything that will eat a crab, I have caught on those baits.
So you've caught redfish?
Redfish, sheephead, flounder, speckled trout, and bass, sometimes all 5 in the same day.
Oh my goodness.
So this is one of my long-time go-to baits, especially on the lower end of the river down there.
Wow.
And then as far as topwater baits go, I love to fish a topwater bait. That's pretty much an old standard, black and silver. Bangalore, that's still my favorite topwater bait, is a black and silver Bangalore. You can go with you can, that's pretty much a standard.
And that replicates the color of a natural bait too,
right.
Silver.
And I go a lot with natural stuff that looks like the forage would be. There's a Tennessee shad, which is a very common. That's a good bait.
Okay.
When bass, they're about to go into the bedding mode now as it's getting into spring.
Yeah.
This thing is unbelievable. When they go on bed, something about that red and gold color infuriates a bedding bass.
Really?
You can throw that up there on top of him and just let it lay there.
Oh my goodness.
And he'll look at it for a few minutes, and then next thing you know, he's going to hit it.
Oh wow. Folks, believe it or not, we're running out of time again, so that means Bobby's going to have to come back next month. We've got more tackle on here, and now this is coming from the pro right here. These colors and all, it doesn't get any better than this. Bobby, thanks again for coming on. And we'll see you next month. We're going to talk about the rest of these baits and all the things, all the secrets. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you all for watching the show. We appreciate the viewership. Do something good today for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.